taken to the path of devotional service. Sushila Sadhavo Yatra Narayan Parayana. For these great personalities are the perfect persons, as stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 5:18-12. यस्याति भक्तिर्भगवती अकिंचना सर्वे गुणेस्तर समस्तेषुरा. One who has unflinching devotion to the personality of Godhead has all the good qualities of the demigods. The less intelligent, however, misunderstand the bhakti path and therefore allege that it is for one who cannot execute ritualistic ceremonies or speculate, as confirmed here by the word Sadharichanam. Bhakti is the path that is appropriate, not the path of Karm Kand and Jnana Kand. Mayavadi may be Sushila Sadhavo, well-behaved saintly persons, but there is nevertheless some doubt about whether they are actually making progress, for they have not accepted the path of Bhakti. On the other hand, those who follow the path of the Acharyas are Sushila and Sadhava, but furthermore their path is Okta Bhava, which means free from fear. One should fearlessly follow the 12 Mahajans and their line of disciplic succession and thus be liberated from the clutches of Maya. Text 18.
Next time we will.
Okay, ये 17 हिंदी से नहीं
English appropriate.
Okay. Text 17 translation. The path followed by pure devotees who are well behaved and fully endowed with the best qualifications is certainly the most auspicious path in the material world. It is free from fear and it is authorized by the Shastras. Purport. Retranslation from सुशील तथा सर्वोत्तम गुणों से युक्त शुद्ध भक्तों के द्वारा पालन किया जाने वाला मार्ग निश्चय ही इस भौतिक जगत का सबसे मंगलमय मार्ग है. यह भय से रहित है और शास्त्रों द्वारा प्रमाणित है. The path followed by pure devotees who are well behaved and fully endowed with the best qualification is certainly the most auspicious path in the material world. It is free from fear and it is authorized by the Shastras. Okay. Purport. One should not think that the person who takes the bhakti is one who cannot perform the ritualistic ceremonies recommended in the Karma Kand section of the Vedas or is not sufficiently educated to speculate on spiritual subjects. Mayavadis generally allege that the bhakti path is for women and illiterates. This is groundless accusation. The bhakti path is followed by the most learned scholars such as Goswamis, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramanujanacharya. They are the actual followers of the bhakti path, regardless of whether or not one is educated or aristocratic. One must follow in their footsteps. Mahajano yena gata sapantha. One must follow the path of Mahajans. The Mahajans are those who have taken to the path of devotional service. Sushila Sadhavo Yatra Narayan Parayana. For these great personalities are the perfect persons, as stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 5:18-12. Yashyasti bhaktir bhagvati akinchana sarver gunes tatra samasate sura. One who has unflinching devotion to the personality of Godhead has all the good qualities of the demigods. The less intelligent, however, misunderstand the bhakti path and therefore allege that it is for one who cannot execute ritualistic ceremonies or speculate, as confirmed here by the word सदा ही sadricino. Bhakti is the path that is appropriate, not the path of Karamkand and Gyankand. Mayavadi may be Sushila Sadhava, well behaved saintly persons, but there is nevertheless some doubt about whether they are actually making progress, for they have not accepted the path of Bhakti Yoga. On the other hand, those who follow the path of Acharyas are Sushila and Sadhava. But furthermore, their path is Oktobhava, which means free from fear. One should fearlessly follow the 12 Mahajans and their line of disciplic succession and thus be liberated from the clutches of Maya. Hindi. सत्रहवां श्लोक अनुवाद। सुशील तथा सर्वोत्तम गुणों से युक्त शुद्ध भक्तों के द्वारा पालन किया जाने वाला मार्ग निश्चय ही इस भौतिक जगत का सबसे मंगलमय मार्ग है। यह भय से रहित है और शास्त्रों द्वारा प्रमाणित है। तात्पर्य, किसी को यह नहीं सोचना चाहिए कि भक्ति अंगीकार करने वाला व्यक्ति वेदों के कर्मकांड अनुभाग में समस्तुत अनुष्ठानों को संपन्न नहीं कर सकता, या कि वह आध्यात्मिक विषयों पर चिंतन करने के लिए पर्याप्त शिक्षित नहीं है। मायावादी सामान्यतः यह आरोप लगाते हैं कि भक्ति मार्ग स्त्रियों तथा अशिक्षितों के लिए है। यह निराधार आरोप है। भक्ति मार्ग का अनुसरण अत्यंत विद्वान पंडितों यथा श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु तथा रामानुजाचार्य जैसे गोस्वामियों द्वारा किया गया है। भक्ति मार्ग के यही वास्तविक अनुगामी है। कोई चाहे शिक्षित या कुलीन हो या न हो, उसे इनके ही पद चिन्हों का अनुसरण करना चाहिए। महाजनों ये न गतः सपन्था, मनुष्य को महाजनों के मार्ग का पालन करना चाहिए। महाजन वे हैं जिन्होंने भक्ति के मार्ग को ग्रहण किया है। सुशीला साधवो यत्र नारायण परायण, क्योंकि ऐसे महापुरुष ही पूर्ण पुरुष होते हैं। श्रीमद् भागवतम 5:18-12 में कहा गया है, यशास्ति भक्तिर् भगवत्य किंचना सर्वे गुणे सत्र समासते सुरा। जिसमें भगवान के प्रति अविचल भक्ति होती है, उसमें देवताओं के समस्त सद्गुण पाए जाते हैं। किंतु जो अल्पज्ञ हैं वे भक्ति मार्ग का गलत अर्थ लगाते हैं। इसलिए यह आरोप लगाते हैं कि भक्ति उन लोगों के लिए है जो अनुष्ठान नहीं संपन्न कर सकते या चिंतन नहीं कर सकते। जैसा कि यहाँ पर सद्राचीनः शब्द से पुष्टि हुई है, भक्ति वही मार्ग है जो उपयुक्त है, कर्म कांड तथा ज्ञान कांड के मार्ग नहीं। मायावादी भले ही सुशीला साधवा अच्छे आचरण वाले साधु पुरुष हों, किंतु इसमें संदेह ही है कि वास्तव में वे प्रगति कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि उन्होंने भक्ति मार्ग स्वीकार नहीं किया है। दूसरी ओर जो लोग आचार्यों के मार्ग का अनुसरण करते हैं वे सुशीला तथा साधवा हैं, किंतु इतना ही नहीं, उनका मार्ग अकुतो भय है, अर्थात वह भय से रहित है। मनुष्य को चाहिए कि निर्भय होकर 12 महाजनों तथा उनकी परंपरा का अनुगमन करें और माया के पास से मुक्त हो लें।
Well,
12. This is shloka number 17.
read from English from text 1.
Text one, okay. From English book. Chapter 1, The History of the Life of Ajamil. Text 1, Translation. Maharaj Parikshit said, O my lord, O Sukdev Goswami, you have already described in the second canto the path of liberation, Nivritti Marg. By following that path, one is certainly elevated gradually to the highest planetary system, Brahmaloka, from which one is promoted to the spiritual world along with Lord Brahma. Thus, once repetition of birth and death in the material world ceases. Purport. Since Maharaj Parikshit was a Vaishnava, when he heard the description at the end of the fifth canto of the different hellish conditions of life, he was very much concerned with how to liberate the conditioned soul from the clutches of Maya and take them back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, he reminded his spiritual master Sukdev Goswami about the Nivritti Marg, or the path of liberation, which he had described in the second canto. Maharaj Parikshit, who at the time of death was fortunate to have met Sukdev Goswami, inquired from Sukdev Goswami about the path of liberation at that crucial time. Sukdev Goswami very much appreciated his question and congratulated him by saying, Vyariyan esha te prashanam krato lokhitam nripa atmavid samatha pumsham sarto vyadhishu ye para. My dear king, your question is glorious because it is very beneficial for all kinds of people. The answer to this question is the prime subject matter for hearing, and it is approved by all transcendentalists. Bhagavatam 2.1.1. Parikshit Maharaj was astonished that the living entities in the conditional stage do not accept the path of liberation, devotional service, instead of suffering in so many hellish conditions. This is the symptom of a Vaishnava. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha. Vaishnava is an ocean of mercy. Para dukhe dukhi. He is unhappy because of the unhappiness of others. Therefore, Parikshit Maharaj, being compassionate toward the conditioned souls suffering in hellish life, suggested that Sukdev Goswami continue describing the path of liberation, which he had explained in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The word Asamsriti is very important in this connection. Samsriti refers to continuing on the path of birth and death. Asamsriti, on the contrary, refers to the Nivritti Marg, or the path of liberation by which one's birth and death cease and one gradually progresses to Brahmaloka.
Read student one.
Read
Translation.
translation. Okay. Text 1 translation. Maharaj Parikshit said, O my Lord, O Sukdev Goswami, you have already discussed in the second canto the path of liberation, Nivritti Marg. By following that path, one is certainly elevated gradually to the highest planetary system, Brahmaloka, from which one is promoted to the spiritual world along with Lord Brahma. Thus, one's repetition of birth and death in the material world ceases. Text 2. Text 2 translation. O great sage Sukdev Goswami, unless the living entity is freed from the infection of the material modes of nature, he receives different types of bodies in which to enjoy or suffer. And according to the body, he is understood to have various inclinations. By following these inclinations, he traverses the path called Pravritti Marg, by which one may be elevated to the heavenly planets, as you have already discussed in the third canto. Purport. As Lord Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, Shloka 25. यान्ति देवव्रता देवान् पितॄन् यान्ति पितृव्रता भूतानि यान्ति भूतेज्या यान्ति मध्य जनापि माम्. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings.
Next program.
Text 3 translation. You have already discussed at the end of the fifth canto the varieties of the hellish life that result from impious activities, and you have described in the fourth canto the first Manvantar, which was presided over by Shambhu Manu, the son of Lord Brahma. Text 4 and 5 translation. My dear Lord, you have described the dynasties and characteristics of King Priyavrat and King Uttanpad, the supreme personality of Godhead, created this material world with various universes, planetary systems, planets and stars, with varied lands, seas, oceans, mountains, rivers, gardens and trees, all with different characteristics. These are divided among this planet Earth. The luminaries in the sky and the lower planetary systems, you have very clearly described these planets and living entities who live on them. Purport. Here the words Yathadam Ashraj Vidhubhu clearly indicate that the Supreme, the Great, Almighty Personality of Godhead created this entire material world with its different varieties of planets, stars and so forth. Atheists try to conceal the hand of God which is present in every creation, but they cannot explain how all these creation could come into existence without a competent intelligence and almighty power behind them. Simply to imagine or speculate is a waste of time. In Bhagavad Gita 10:8, the Lord says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo, I am the origin of everything. Matya sarvam pravartade, whatever exists in the creation emanates from me. Iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhav samanvita. When one fully understands that I create everything by my omnipotence, one becomes firmly situated in devotional service and fully surrenders at my lotus feet. Unfortunately, the unintelligent cannot immediately understand Krishna's supremacy. Nonetheless, if they associate with devotees and read authorized books, they may gradually come to the proper understanding. Although this may take many births, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 7:19. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanvanam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Vasudeva, Krishna is the creator of everything, and his energy is displayed in various ways. As explained in the Bhagavad Gita 7.4 to 5, a combination of the material energy, Bhumi Rapo Nalo Vayu,
50%
and the spiritual energy, the living entity, exists in every creation. Therefore, the same principle, the combination of the Supreme Spirit and the material element, is the cause of the cosmic manifestation. Text 6, translation.
50%.
Are we there?
50%. What are the result will
Text 6, translation. O greatly fortunate and opulent Sukdev Goswami, now kindly tell me how human beings may be saved from having to enter hellish conditions in which they suffer terrible pains. Purport. In the 26th chapter of the 5th canto, Sukdev Goswami has explained that people who commit sinful acts are forced to enter hellish planets and suffer. Now Maharaj Parikshit, being a devotee, is concerned with how this can be stopped. As a Vaishnava is Panadukhi Dukhi. In other words, he has no personal troubles, but he is very unhappy to see others in trouble. Prahlad Maharaj said, My Lord, I have no personal problems, for I have learned how to glorify your transcendental qualities and thus enter a trance to ecstasy. I do not have a problem. However, for I am simply thinking of these rascals and fools who are busy with Maya Sukh, temporary happiness, without knowledge of devotional service unto you. This is the problem faced by a Vaishnava. Because a Vaishnava fully takes shelter of the Supreme Personality of God and he personally has no problems. But because he is compassionate toward the fallen, conditioned soul, he is of always thinking of plans to save them from their hellish life in this body and the next. Parikshit Maharaj therefore anxiously wanted to know from Sukdev Goswami how humanity can be saved from gliding down to hell. Sukdev Goswami had already explained how people enter hellish life, and he could also explain how they could be saved from it. Intelligent men must take advantage of these instructions. Unfortunately, however, the entire world is lacking Krishna consciousness, and therefore people are suffering from the grossest ignorance and do not even believe in a life after this one. To convince them from their next life is very difficult because they have become almost mad in their pursuit of material enjoyment. Nevertheless, our duty, the duty of all sane men, is to save them. Maharaj Parikshit is the representative of one who can save them. Text 7. Translation. Sukdev Goswami replied, My dear king, if before one's next death, whatever impious acts one has performed in this life with his mind, words, and body are not counteracted through proper atonement, according to the description of the Manu Samhita and other Dharma Shastra, one will serve, one will certainly enter the hellish planets after death and undergo terrible suffering, as I have previously described to you. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions that although Maharaj Parikshit was a pure devotee, Sukdev Goswami did not immediately speak to him about the strength of the devotional service. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 14.27. Mam yochya vyabhichareena bhakti yogena sevate saguna samakite yeta brahma bhujay kalpate. Devotional service is so strong that if one fully surrenders to Krishna and takes fully to his devotional service, the reaction of his sinful life immediately stops. Elsewhere in the Gita 18.66, Lord Krishna urges that one give up all other duties and surrender to him. And he promises, Aham tvam sarvapapebhyo mokshishyami. I shall free you from all sinful directions and give you liberation. Therefore, in response to the inquiries of the Parikshit Maharaj, Sukdev Goswami, his guru, could have immediately explained the principle of bhakti. But to test Parikshit Maharaj's intelligence, he first prescribed atonement. According to Karam Kand, the path of fruitive activities. For Karam Kand, there are 80 authorized scriptures, such as Manu Samhita, which are known as Dharma Shastras. In these scriptures, one is advised to counteract his sinful acts by performing other types of fruitive action. This was the path first recommended by Sukdev Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. And actually, it is a fact that one who does not take to devotional service must follow the decision of these scriptures by performing pious acts to counteract his impious acts. This is known as atonement. Text 8. Translation. Therefore, before one's next death comes, as long as one's body is strong enough, one should quickly adopt the process of atonement according to Shastra. Otherwise, one's time will be lost and the reactions of his sins will increase. As an expert physician diagnoses and treats a disease according to its gravity, one should undergo atonement according to the severity of one's sins. Purport. The Dharma Shastra.
Read the translation. Read it.
Text 8. Translation. Therefore, before one's next death, as long as one's body is strong enough, one should quickly adopt the process of atonement according to Shastra. Otherwise, one's time will be lost and the reactions of his sins will increase. As an expert physician diagnoses it and treats a disease according to its gravity, one should undergo atonement according to the severity of one's sins. Purport. The Dharma Shastra, like Manu Samhita, prescribes that a man who has committed murder should be hanged and his own life sacrificed in atonement. Previously, this system was followed all over the world. But since people are becoming atheists, they are stopping capital punishment. This is not wise. Herein it is said that a physician who knows how to diagnose a disease prescribe medicines accordingly. If the disease is very serious, the medicine must be strong. The weight of a murderer's sins is very great, and therefore, according to Manu Samhita, a murderer must be killed. By killing a murderer, the government shows mercy to him, because if a murderer is not killed in this life, he will be killed and forced to suffer many times in future lives. Since people do not know about the next life and the intricate working of nature, they manufacture their own laws, but they should properly consult the established injunctions of the Shastras and act accordingly. In India, even today,
Read India the shloka.
Hindi shloka,
Stroke number 8.
shloka number 8,
Read it.
and श्लोक 8. तस्मात् पुरे वाश्वीहा पापनिष्ठ.
Yes, read this translation and talk about
अच्छा. Therefore, English saying ना गुरु माने.
Yeah, fine. English for
श्लोक 8 अनुवाद. अतः अगली मृत्यु आने के पूर्व जब तक मनुष्य का शरीर पर्याप्त सशक्त है, उसे शास्त्रों के अनुसार प्रायश्चित की विधि तुरंत अपनानी चाहिए, अन्यथा समय की क्षति होगी.
पेपर का है जो कागज पेंसिल पढ़ो read. Identify sensitivity. What is the shloka number?
श्लोक नंबर 8. ओके. अतः अगली मृत्यु आने के पूर्व जब तक मनुष्य का शरीर पर्याप्त सशक्त है, उसे शास्त्रों के अनुसार प्रायश्चित की विधि तुरंत अपनानी चाहिए, अन्यथा समय की क्षति होगी. और उसके पापों का फल बढ़ता जाएगा। जिस तरह एक कुशल वैद्य रोग का निदान और उपचार उसकी गंभीरता के अनुसार करता है, उसी तरह मनुष्य को अपने पापों की गहनता के अनुसार प्रायश्चित करना चाहिए। तात्पर्य: मनु संहिता जैसे धार्मिक शास्त्रों में संस्तुत की गई है कि हत्या करने वाले व्यक्ति को फांसी देनी चाहिए और प्रायश्चित में उसके जीवन की बलि दी जानी चाहिए। पहले सारे विश्व में यह पद्धति अपनाई जाती थी, किंतु नास्तिक बनते जाने के कारण लोग इस प्राणदंड को बंद कर रहे हैं। यह बुद्धिमानी नहीं है। यहाँ पर यह कहा गया है कि जो वैद्य रोग का निदान करना चाहता है वह उसी के अनुसार दवा की संस्तुति करता है। यदि रोग अति गंभीर हो तो दवा को सशक्त होना चाहिए। हत्यारे के पाप का भार बहुत बड़ा होता है, अतः मनु संहिता के अनुसार हत्यारे का वध कर दिया जाना चाहिए। हत्यारे का वध करके सरकार उस पर कृपा करती है, क्योंकि यदि हत्यारे का इसी जीवन में वध नहीं कर दिया जाता तो अगले जन्मों में उसका अनेक बार वध किया जाएगा और उसे कष्ट भोगने के लिए बाध्य किया जाएगा। चूंकि लोग अगले जीवन तथा प्रकृति की जटिल कार्यशैली के विषय में नहीं जानते, अतः वे अपने कानून बनाते हैं, किंतु उन्हें चाहिए कि शास्त्रों द्वारा स्थापित आदेशों का उचित रीति से अवगाहन करें और उन्हीं के अनुसार कर्म करें। भारत में आज भी हिंदू समुदाय प्राय इस विषय में कुशल पंडितों इंग्लिश में text 8 translation. Therefore, before one's next death comes, as long as one's body is strong enough, one should quickly adopt the process of atonement according to the Shastra. Otherwise, one's time will be lost and the reactions of his sins will increase.
Can you read next line?
Per next slow. Text 9 translation. Maharaj Parikshit said, one may know that sinful activity is injurious for him because he actually sees that a criminal is punished by the government and rebuffed by people in general, and because he hears from scriptures and learned scholars that one is thrown into hellish conditions in the next life for committing sinful acts. Nevertheless, in spite of such knowledge, one is forced to commit sins again and again, even after performing acts of atonement. Therefore, what is the value of such atonement? In some religious sects, a saintly man goes to a priest to confess his sinful acts and pay a fine. But then he again commits the same sin and returns to confess them again. This is the practice of a professional sinner. Parikshit Maharaj's observation indicates that even 5,000 years ago, it was the practice of criminals to atone for their crimes, but they commit the same crime again, as forced to do so. Therefore, owing to his practical experience, Parikshit Maharaj saw that the process of repeatedly sinning and atoning is pointless. Regardless of how many times he is punished, one who is attached to sense enjoyment will commit sinful acts again and again until he is trained to refrain from enjoying his senses. The word vivash is used herein, indicating that even one who does not want to commit sinful acts will be forced to do so by habit. Parikshit Maharaj therefore considered the process of atonement to have little value for saving one from sinful acts. In the following verse, he further explains his rejections of this process. Text 10. Translation. Sometimes one who is very alert so as not to commit sinful act is victimized by sinful life again. I therefore consider this process of repeatedly sinning and atoning to be useless. It is like the bathing of an elephant. For an elephant cleanses itself by taking a full bath, but then throws dust over its head and body as soon as it returns off the land. Purport. When Parikshit Maharaj inquired how a human being could free himself from sinful acts so as not to be forced to go to hellish planetary systems after death, Sukdev Goswami answered that the process of counteracting sinful life is atonement. In this way, Sukdev Goswami tested the intelligence of Parikshit Maharaj, who passed the examination by refusing to accept this process as genuine. How Parikshit Maharaj is expecting another answer from his spiritual master Sukdev Goswami. Text 11. Translation. श्लोक 10 अनुवाद। कभी कभी ऐसा व्यक्ति जो पाप कर्म न करने के प्रति अत्यधिक सतर्क रहता है पुनः पाप में जीवन के फेर में आ जाता है। इसलिए मैं बारंबार पाप करने तथा प्रायश्चित करने की इस विधि को निरर्थक मानता हूँ। यह तो हाथी के स्नान करने जैसा है, क्योंकि हाथी पूर्ण स्नान करके अपने को स्वच्छ बनाता है, किंतु स्थल पर वापस आते ही अपने सिर तथा शरीर पर धूल डाल देता है। तात्पर्य, जब परीक्षित महाराज ने पूछा कि मनुष्य किस तरह पाप कर्मों से अपने को मुक्त कर सकता है जिससे उसे मृत्यु के बाद नरक लोक में जाने के लिए बाध्य न होना पड़े, तो सुखदेव गोस्वामी ने उत्तर दिया कि पाप में जीवन के निराकरण की विधि तो प्रायश्चित है। इस तरह से सुखदेव गोस्वामी ने महाराज परीक्षित की बुद्धि की परीक्षा ली और परीक्षित इस विधि को प्रमाणिक मानने से इनकार करके उस परीक्षा में उत्तीर्ण हुए। अब परीक्षित महाराज अपने गुरु सुखदेव गोस्वामी से दूसरे उत्तर की अपेक्षा कर रहे हैं। टेक्स्ट 11 ट्रांसलेशन। सुखदेव गोस्वामी, the son of Vedvyas, answered, My dear king, since acts mean to neutralize impious actions are also fruitive, they will not release one from the tendency to act fruitively. The persons who subject themselves to the rules and regulation of atonement are not at all intelligent. Indeed, they are in the modes of darkness. Unless one is freed from the mode of ignorance, trying to counteract one action through another is useless, because this will not uproot one's desires. Thus, even though one may be superficially seem pious, he will undoubtedly be prone to act impiously. Therefore, real atonement is enlightenment in perfect knowledge, Vedanta, by which one understands the supreme absolute truth. Purport. The Guru Sukdev Goswami has explained Parikshit Maharaj, and it appears that the king has passed one phase of the examination by rejecting the process of atonement because it involved fruitive activities. Now Sukdev Goswami is suggesting the platform of speculative knowledge. Progressing through from Karm Kand to Gyan Kand, he is proposing Prayishchitam Vimarshanam, speculative knowledge. In Bhagavad Gita, karmis who are lacking in knowledge are compared to asses. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7:15, Nemam duskritano muda pratyante naradama maya pratyana ashurim bhavmashita. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. Thus, karmis who engage in sinful acts and who do not know the true objective of life are called mudahas, asses. Vimarshan, however, is also explained in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, where Krishna says, Vedeshu sarve ameva vedya. The purpose of Vedic study is to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one studies Vedanta but merely advances somewhat in speculative knowledge and the Supreme Lord, one remains the same Buddha. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 7:19. One attains real knowledge when he understands Krishna and surrender unto him. Bahunam janmanam ante janmanam prapadyate. To become learned and free from material contamination, therefore one should try to understand Krishna. For thus one is immediately liberated from all impious and impious activities and their reactions. Text 12 translation. My dear king, if a deceased person eats the pure, uncontaminated food prescribed by a physician, he is gradually cured, and the infection of the disease can no longer touch him. Similarly, one follows the regulative principle of knowledge, he gradually progresses toward liberation from material contamination. Purport. One is gradually purified if one cultivates knowledge, even through mental speculation, and strictly follow the regulative principles enjoined in the Shastra and explained in the next verse. Therefore, the platform of Gyan, speculative knowledge, is better than the platform of Karma, fruitive action. There is every chance of falling from the platform of Karma to hellish conditions. But on the platform of Gyan, one is saved from hellish life. Although one is still not completely free from infection. The difficulty is that on the platform of Gyan, one thinks that he has been liberated and has become Narayan or Bhagwan. This is another phase of ignorance. Bhagavatam 10:2-32. Because of ignorance, one speculatively thinks himself liberated from material contamination, although actually he is not. Therefore, even if one rises to Brahma, a Gyan, a understanding of Brahman, one nevertheless falls down because of not taking shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. Nonetheless, Gyanis at least know what is sinful and what is pious. They are cautiously act according to the injunctions of the Shastra. Text. अगला श्लोक. Text 13-14. Translation. To concentrate the mind, one must observe a life of celibacy and not fall down. One must undergo the austerity of voluntarily giving up sense enjoyment. One must then control the mind and senses, give charity, be truthful, clean and non-violent. Follow the regulative principle and regularly chant the holy name of the Lord. Thus a sober and faithful person who knows the religious principle is temporarily purified of all sins performed with his body, words and mind. These sins are like the dried leaves of creepers beneath a bamboo tree, which may be burned by fire, although their roots remain to grow again at the first opportunity. Purport. Tapa is explained in the Smriti Shastra as follows. Manasaschandriyanam che atigrayam paramam tapa. Complete control of the mind and senses and their complete concentration on one kind of activity is called tapa. Our Krishna consciousness movement is teaching people how to concentrate the mind on devotional service. This is first class tapa. Brahmacharya, the life of celibacy, has 8 aspects. One should not think of women, speak about sex life, daily with women, look lustfully at women, talk intimately with women or decide to engage in sexual intercourse. One should not endeavor, nor one endeavor for sex life or engage in sex life. One should not even think of women or look at them, to say nothing of talking with them. This is called first class brahmachari. If a brahmachari or sannyasi talks with a woman in a secluded place, naturally there will be possibility of sex life without anyone's knowledge. Therefore, a complete brahmachari practices just the opposite. If one is perfect brahmachari, he can very easily control the mind and senses.
Go to the next person. I guess what?
Text 15, translation. Only a rare person who has adopted complete unalloyed devotional service to Krishna can uproot the weeds of sinful actions and with no possibility that they will revive. He can do this simply by discharging devotional service, just as the sun can immediately dissipate fog by its rays. Perfect. In the previous verse, Sukdev Goswami gave the example that the dried leaves of the creepers beneath a bamboo tree may be completely burnt to ashes by fire. Also, the creepers may sprout again because the root is still in the ground. Similarly, because the root of sinful desire is not destroyed in the heart of a person who is cultivating knowledge but who has no taste for devotional service, there is possibility that his sinful desires will reappear, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14. Speculators who undergo great labor to gain a meticulous understanding of the material world by distinguishing between sinful and pious activities, but who are not situated in devotional service are prone to material activities. They may fall down and become implicated in futile activities. If one becomes attached to devotional service, however, his desires for material enjoyment are automatically vanquished without separate endeavor. Bhakti pareshanubhavo viraktir anyatrecha. If one is advanced in Krishna consciousness, material activities, both sinful and pious, automatically become distasteful to him. This is the test of Krishna consciousness. Both pious and impious activities are actually due to ignorance, because a living entity as an eternal servant of Krishna has no need to act for his personal sense gratification. Therefore, as soon as one is reclaimed to the platform of devotional service, he relinquishes his attachment for pious and impious activities and is interested only in what will satisfy Krishna. This process of bhakti devotional service to Krishna, Vasudeva Prayana, relieves one from the reactions of all activities. Since Maharaj Parikshit was a great devotee, the answer of his guru Sukdev Goswami concerning Karm Kand and Gyan Kand could not satisfy him. Therefore, Sukdev Goswami, knowing very well the heart of his disciple, explained the transcendental bliss of the devotional service. The word kechit, which is used in this verse, means a few people, but not all. Not everyone can become Krishna conscious. As Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita 7:3, Manusyanam shasteshu kashchid yatati siddhaya yatamapi siddhanam kashchimam veti tatvata. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection. Because hardly one knows me in truth. Practically no one understands Krishna as he is. For Krishna cannot be understood through pure pious activities or attainment of the most elevated speculative knowledge. Actually, the highest knowledge consists of understanding Krishna. Unintelligent men who do not understand Krishna are grossly puffed up, thinking that they are liberated or have themselves become Krishna or Narayan. This is ignorance. To indicate the purity of bhakti, devotional service, Srila Rupa Goswami says in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.11, अन्यभिलाषितां शून्यं ज्ञानकर्वादि अनावृतम् अनुपूज्येन कृष्णानुशीलनं भक्तिरुत्तमा. One should render devotional service. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. Srila Rup Goswami further explains that the bhakti is kleshagni subda, which means if one takes to devotional service, all kinds of unnecessary labor and material distress cease entirely, and one achieve all good fortune. Bhakti is so powerful that it is also said to be moksha lugatra. In other words, it will minimize the importance of liberation. Non-devotee must undergo material hardship because they are prone to commit sinful futile activities. The desire to commit sinful actions continues in their hearts due to ignorance. These sinful actions are divided into three categories: pataka, mahapataka, and ati pataka, and also into two divisions: parabad and aparabad. Parabad refers to sinful reactions from which one is suffering at present, and aparabad refers to sources of potential suffering. When the seed, beej of sinful reactions have not yet fructified, the reactions are called aparabad. These seeds of sinful actions are unseen, but they are unlimited, and no one can trace when they were first placed, planted. Because of parabad, sinful reactions that are already fructified, one is seen to have taken in a low family or to be suffering from other miseries. When one takes to devotional service, however, all phases of sinful life, including Prabhad and Aprabhad and Bij, Prarabdha and Bij, are vanquished. In Srimad Bhagavatam 11:14-19, Lord Krishna tells Uddhav, "My dear Uddhav, devotional service in relationship with me is like a blazing fire that can burn to ashes all the fuel of sinful activities supplied to it." How devotional service vanquishes the reaction of sinful life is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, chapter 33, Shloka 6. Is a word where is spoken during the Lord Kapil Dev's instruction to his mother. Devhuti said, "My dear Lord, if even a person born in a family of dog eaters hears and repeats the chanting of your glories, offers respects to you and remembers you, he is immediately greater than a Brahman and is therefore eligible to perform sacrifices. Therefore, one is to be said of one who has been you directly, one who has seen you directly." In the Padma Puran, there is a statement that person whose heart are always attached to the devotional service of the Lord Vishnu are immediately released from all the reactions of sinful life. These reactions generally exist in four phases. Some of them are ready to produce results immediately, some are in the form of seed, some are unmanifested, some are current. All such reactions are immediately nullified by devotional service.
Thank you.
आगे आओ फोन देख के किसी भी प्रकार आरती लीजिए आरती।